Hey y'all, so this is going to be our training video. It's going to kind of look like this. I'll try to put it in each week. That kind of gives us an idea of where we are as a group, and I'm going to try to do it on Thursdays because I get a lot of feedback from that night when it's kind of fresh on our minds as we get kind of prepared for next week's small group. First off, y'all are doing amazing. I couldn't imagine it going as well as it has been, especially with me not being here for the first 2 weeks. From our parent pack to our worship pack to what Jeff's doing and Ashley to what all y'all are doing with your small groups. But I want to take this time to really kind of feed into y'all as far as what it takes and what we're looking for without giving you the full 50-page ministry plan and expecting you to go through it. This is such a huge and important part of what the needs are with our students. And y'all are playing the most pivotal role in that. So know that gratitude is continually extended to you and that we're talking about the great things that you're doing. And as it's been difficult kind of in the beginning, understand that we're just in the beginning, that we're just a few weeks into something that I think is going to take its own form as we continue to move forward. And y'all are such an important part of that. So today I want to talk about something that's really kind of near and dear to my heart, and especially as we're doing this, things that I've had conversations with, Jeff and Ashley and, Lee and Pam and those and Dane and all those that have been a part of the program for a little while, is creating a culture. And that's exactly what we're trying to do with our students. We're not trying to teach them anything. We're not trying to get any specific point across other than creating a culture where they can grow spiritually. Not creating a culture where we can grow them, not creating a culture where we can put them where we want them or where we think they need to be, but creating a culture where they're empowered to be where they feel like that they need to be in order to grow closer to God and understand who God is uniquely and individually in their lives. So understand that that's the goal. As far as what we believe is that each person's unique interpretation of who God is to them in the specific moments of their daily lives is what's most important to them. We don't want to transpose upon them some blanket God that makes it difficult for them to relate in various circumstances because the culture in which they live is so multidimensional. So we have to be able to create and really hold a space for God being the multidimensional God He is, because God is all dimensions. And I know that's difficult. It's really easy to put God in a box and to say this is the way that you need to learn Jesus and this is the way that you need to learn God. But if we can allow God to be who God is, which is everything, always, at all times, then we can allow the kids to find access points to who God is and how God can be who God wants to be for them in the individual moments of their lives, whether it's in homework struggles, whether it's in family struggles, whether it's in places in their lives where they wouldn't even imagine God existed or cared. That's where we want them specifically to be looking for God. So again, it's really easy to kind of pitch that narrow perspective, but we want a wide angle perspective. And that's why these small groups are so important, because you're the ones that are helping them kind of craft who God is to them and trusting with a deep faith and trust and hope in God that God's going to come through in their lives through you. So that kind of begins with the model that we have. We call it Perpetual Discipleship. And what that means is that each person within the church, within our group, is being mentored and also mentoring someone else. So you start at the top, just for our youth group. I have a mentor. He's another pastor, and I have other pastors that mentor me that are outside of the church. My role as far as mentoring, I know this makes some of you uncomfortable, but as far as you as small group leaders and you as volunteers, it's my job to try to give you the tools that you need to be successful within my given scope. Sometimes those cross because I come to some of y'all for things, but as far as this is concerned, that's where y'all are. And we're looking for other elders within the church to be able to continue to mentor y'all. Now, as student leaders, you have that kind of double opportunity to be mentored by your adult leaders in your group. That's kind of the key relationships that I'm hopeful for in these groups, because we spent so much time kind of praying and hoping God would call the right people. And that's what it was. It wasn't, I want this person or that person. It was just, God, call the right people that are going to come to the table to be able to fulfill the vision and the hope that you have for this youth group and for this church. And I think without a shadow of a doubt that that's happened in various ways and in various forms. So know, students, that the adults that are with you, it wasn't a warm body to fill a seat. We don't do warm bodies to fill seats, all right? We're very intentional about everything we do, with the purpose behind it, with the vision behind it. And I'm so excited about what God's put together. So know that the adults that are in your group are there to be able to help mentor you and teach you what it means to be a leader. Y'all are in different varying levels of leadership. We've got a lot of ninth graders that are leaders. Ideally, I don't want that, but I think that y'all are ready, and we've talked about that. But lean on your adults. And in adults, y'all be there and support your kids as you already are, and it's going amazing. So that perpetual discipleship then comes down to the students in your pack. So you're mentoring them. Now those students in your pack are looking for mentoring opportunities within our community, whether it be SNOOK, whether it be working with children's ministry, which we'll be doing once a month, whether it be in their schools. But you're teaching and training them that they need to be able to take what they're learning, to take their faith, and it be an active thing. It's not a passive thing. Faith isn't, as a teenager, isn't something where you sit around and you're waiting for it to happen. Faith is something that you work through acting through it. So if you're talking about joy, you need to be talking about how you can share that joy, or how you can take that joy into action into your community. That's what's really important for teenagers, is that action piece and that action part of it. And so that's where the discipleship model comes in, is that everyone's being discipled and everyone is a disciple, and it just continues all the way down the line. So know that's your roles. Adults, in creating that culture, I know the hardest thing for you to do is not fix it. When you got a kid that comes to you and they lay something that's really heavy at your feet, as most of you are parents. As a parent, you want to fix it. And y'all are amazing parents to a person in this group. So what's going to be difficult for you, which is why none of your kids are in your groups, is that I don't want you to parent them. All right? I want you to disciple them. And that's a different thing. Discipling means you walk alongside people. It doesn't mean that you fix the problems. You don't give them the answer. You walk alongside them and empower them in their own human agency to be able to realize that the answers to the questions and the power to overcome the problem exists within them already, because you're pointing to God within them. So no matter where they are, what they're going through, what their family circumstances are, what's happened before in the past, they are a beautiful, wonderful, unique, powerful creation of God. And that power of God is within them. And so walking alongside them, holding the space for them, and continuing to pour to them, if a circumstance in your life isn't the way that you want it to be, hey, how can you and God work through this? How can you make a different choice? How can you do something different? Let them come up with the answer and walk with them through that answer. But we don't fix here. We don't fix because we don't believe that we're broken. Or if we talk about brokenness, we don't think that it's a problem, right? We just think that the brokenness that the world names is just God's opportunity to be able to create us into the image that He's called us to be. That's what it is. So that kind of continues on with the culture piece, the culture that we're trying to create. And it's not really creating. We're not creating any culture. What we're trying to do is perceive that we're trying to listen and look and see what God's doing in our community and in us as individuals, in us as leaders. Oh my goodness. I mean, as God continues to teach me, I know that God's called me here. So God kind of intends for the things that He's teaching me to be part of the ministry here. You see what that means? So as God's moving in your life and in your heart, know that that's relevant to the community with which you're a part of. God molds us and shapes us through action and relating to other people as they are also created images of God's beauty and glory and grace and all of those things. So as you connect as individuals, you're also relating to God. Okay, we'll continue talking about this because it's kind of a big and deep aspect, but you need to understand that that's kind of the root of everything we do, is that we connect to God existentially, which means kind of outside of ourselves, and understand that God is someone that we can't really see or know, but that there are ways that we are able to connect and relate to God, whether it's through Scripture, whether it's through Sunday morning services, definitely through worship. One of those are one of the easy ones. But one of the more difficult ones is that we connect to God through each other. Not just our friends, but that kid that we don't like, or that kid in our small group that's always disrupting us. And I get it, because I've got a boatload of 6th grade boys that are my new challenge in life, all right? But how can I connect to who God is through the minds and the chaos of 6th grade boys? And I think that's what we need to start looking for, is we're connecting to God through each other. That's what discipleship is. Discipleship isn't growing or creating something. It's finding and naming and seeing who God is in that person and calling it forth and holding the space and creating the space for God within them to start showing up and being the dominant force in their lives for decision making. That's how you keep kids in the church. That's how you create, evolve, reveal, unveil the culture that God is moving in the hearts of these students in this church for it to be a reality. So here's the specifics of it, right? And I like this metaphor. I love metaphors. We're always going to have metaphors, okay? Because sometimes like words in and of themselves don't work or fit in this brain. And my head looks kind of big from this wide angle shot, so just deal with it. But the metaphor is we're building a bridge. So we have the culture of the world that's over here, right? Where it's expectations with these students. I mean, it's they're under such scrutiny and performance expectations, and they've got to be this and they've got to be that in order to get to where they need to be, to get into college, to be successful as an adult. And the world puts so much pressure on them. So what they're doing is they're either rebelling, which is natural for a teenager, okay, in the right way, or they're checking out. And that's what we get, is the kids are just checking out, and they're not showing up, and they're not being contributing factors to their world or agents of change to make this environment better. And then we see over here on this side the culture that we know we want the world to be, which is a culture to where we do less talking and we do more acting. There's less of us projecting our own egos and our own issues on other people, and we're vulnerable and open with who we are and the brokenness and parts of our lives that God is there to be able to turn into something of beauty. And connecting in unity and in grace and forgiveness and love, right? So we can't come in here and force this culture, right? We can't just make this happen, because then we just end up angry and bitter and resentful of, why aren't y'all like this? We all know that we shouldn't be this way, so why aren't y'all deciding to be like this? So what we are is we're bridge builders, all right? We unfortunately have to live between the two spaces, okay? We can't all run away and live in the woods and talk to butterflies all the time, even though that's really kind of what I would like to do. But what we can do is we can name that this is the culture that we want to get to, and recognize that this is where we're coming from. And then as a community, as a group, we figure out what the bridge looks like. But here's the key element in this bridge, coming from point A to point B, is that y'all aren't the bridge. Y'all are the buttresses. What y'all do is y'all are standing in the middle of the chasm, right? Understanding what life holds, understanding the difficulties that are entailed with adulthood, with young adulthood, with all the things that these kids are going to have to face. And you're empowering them to build the bridge. They've got to be the bridge builders. It can't be us. So that takes us into something very practical, which is questions and answers, all right? I know that in our small groups, and if you look in the app, I've tried to title each section of what they're supposed to be, and that there's a lot of input from me in there. You got your scripture, your bottom line, and then your get the fire going. That's coming from me, which is an idea to just kind of get people talking. But you got questions and answers. Don't answer the questions. We don't provide answers, right? Because if we're building the bridge for the kids, then they don't have ownership in it. If you tell the kids the answers to the questions, then you're this culture, the culture that tells them how it's supposed to be, right? And you're not giving them the tools to build the bridge to get to the culture that they all want the world to be like. So that's what we do. We're the buttresses. We hold the space. We pose the questions. If the kids are stuck, redirect the question. But you want them to come up with the answers. You want them to be empowered with the answers that they find. Because in order for their faith to be a faith that's relevant, in order for their faith to be a faith that's going to sustain them through adolescence and into young adulthood, and to be contributing members of society, it has to be uniquely and intimately theirs. They can't have my faith. They can't have my belief. They can't have Jeff's belief. They can't have your belief. They need to have their own belief. That's why each and every one of you have been called to the table for various reasons. I mean, look at a ragtag group of adults and kids. I love y'all so much just because, we're definitely ragamuffins. And ragamuffins mean that we're all just desperately trying to figure out this whole thing that's called life and wonder what God's role is in that. So embrace the questions. Let them create the space that they need. Let them take identity and ownership of the group. Let them be the bridge builders, and we're the buttresses. And I understand the pressure that comes with being a buttress, but know that no matter what, you're supported, you're loved, you're appreciated. And if there's anything that we as a ministry team can do to continue being better about making sure you know that, you've got to let us know. So feedback's important. How your group's going. Respond to this email with how what's happening, what you think we could do better, what tools you need. You need another whiteboard. You need more markers. You need a TV. Whatever it is, I want your groups to be organically yours. And I think that if those groups can be organically yours within the framework of what we're all doing, then something really special is going to happen. I'm proud of y'all. I love y'all. Kiddos, y'all are my heart. Adults, y'all are my people. All right, we'll see you on Wednesday.